I was working the front desk of a clinic in Canada when an American tourist came in with a sprained ankle. Our doctor examined him, gave him a brace, and told him to rest. When he was leaving, he stood at my desk for a solid minute before asking, "Okay, so what's the damage? Where's the bill?" I told him there was no bill. That's just how our system works. He looked at me with deep suspicion. Nothing for a doctor's visit and a medical device. Well, what's the catch? Is this some kind of scam where you send me a giant bill in the mail later? My cousin from California visited me in Japan and was completely baffled by our recycling system, which separates items into about 10 different categories. He watched me meticulously wash a plastic bottle, remove the label, and place the bottle cap and label into 3 separate bins. He shook his head and said, "This is insane. In America, we just throw it all in one blue bin and let the garbage fairies sort it out. This feels like a full-time job." It's a classic example of government overreach trying to control your trash. I was managing a project with a new American hire in our Stockholm office. He couldn't grasp the concept of fika, our mandatory coffee and pastry break. He called it a state-enforced waste of productivity and tried to schedule meetings during it. On his 3rd day, he sent a company-wide email suggesting we replace fika with a 10-minute power hustle session to maximize synergy. Our Swedish CEO had to take him aside and explain that if he tried to cancel fika, the entire workforce would probably unionize and revolt before lunch. He just didn't get that the break is part of the work culture, not an obstacle to it. An American manager was sent to our office in Paris. On his 1st day, he tried to fire an employee for being unmotivated. He called the employee into his office and said, "It's not working out. Pack your things." Our French HR manager had to physically intervene, explaining that you can't just fire someone in France. She detailed the extensive legal process involving documented warnings, performance reviews, and potential severance packages that could last for months. The American was aghast. "You mean I can't fire someone who works for me? What kind of communist backwards country is it?" This. I was guiding a tour through the ancient city of Ephesus in Turkey. An American tourist in my group looked at the magnificent ruins of the Library of Chelsea's and said with no irony, "It's a real shame they let this place go. A bit of drywall and some fresh paint, and you could probably flip this for a good price. The location is great. Have they thought about turning these into condos? You could call them historic Roman villas. I bet they'd sell like hot cakes." He seemed genuinely proud of his business idea. My university had an exchange student from Texas who tried to tip our professor. After receiving a good grade on a paper, he went to the professor's office and tried to hand him a 50 note saying, "Thanks for the APA, professor. This is for you." The professor, a stern German man in his 60s, was deeply offended and confused. He thought the student was trying to bribe him after the fact. It took a very awkward 10-minute conversation to explain that, in America, tipping is a common way to show appreciation for good service. Overheard at a cafe in Vienna, famous for its centuries-old coffeehouse culture, an American couple was complaining loudly, "This is the slowest service I've ever had." "We've been here for an hour." The waiter calmly replied, "Madame, this is a Viennese coffeehouse. You are meant to be here for an hour or 2 or 3. The point is not to rush." The husband scoffed. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The point of a restaurant is to get your food and leave. You guys need to learn about efficiency from Chick-fil-A." An American tourist in Germany got into a heated argument with a police officer after being told he couldn't make a certain political joke. He puffed out his chest and declared, "I have freedom of speech. The First Amendment protects my right to say whatever I want." The officer sighed and replied in perfect English, "Sir, you are in Germany. Your amendments do not apply here. Here, our freedom ends where another's dignity begins. And you, sir, have crossed that line. Now, please show me your passport." I was on a boat tour of the Galapagos Islands. An American woman was furious that she couldn't pet the sea lions or get a selfie with a giant. "Tortoise!" She kept trying to get closer and the guide had to keep stopping her. "This is false advertising," she yelled. "The brochure showed people close to the animals." "Why can't I touch them? I paid for the full experience." The guide patiently explained the strict conservation rules about not disturbing the wildlife. She huffed. Well, at SeaWorld, they let you touch the dolphins. My company sent me to our office in India for a project. My American colleague who was with me was horrified by the traffic in Mumbai. Not just the volume, but the way it flowed. He said, "There are no rules here. People are just driving wherever they want. They need to implement a proper American-style grid system with clear lanes and traffic lights. I'm going to write a letter to the mayor. This whole city is a safety hazard. We could fix this in a month." He genuinely believed he could solve Mumbai's traffic problems with a PowerPoint presentation. At a high-end restaurant in Naples, an American family ordered a beautiful traditional margherita pizza. When it arrived, the mother looked at it with disappointment and called the waiter over. "Excuse me, can we get some ranch dressing for this?" The waiter, a proud man in his 50s, looked as if she had slapped him. He just stood there speechless. She then added, "And some for my husband, Sir Semyon, too. He thinks your marinara sauce is a little bland." The waiter walked away without a word and sent a younger colleague to deal with them. I was working at a museum in Cairo. An American tourist was staring at the Rosetta Stone exhibit. He read the description and then asked me, "So, this is how they learn to read all the hieroglyphics?" "Right." I nodded. He then said, "Why didn't they just use Google Translate? It seems like it would have been a lot faster. They could have just taken a picture with their phone, and it would have translated everything instantly." I had to explain that the stone was discovered in 1799. My friend from Oklahoma came to visit me in the UK and was shocked that we don't have air conditioning as a standard in most homes. It was a mildly warm summer day, about 244 degrees 75 degrees. He was sweating dramatically and said, "How do you people live like this? It's a basic human right to have AC. This is like living in the Stone Age. I feel so oppressed by the heat." He spent the rest of the day complaining about our primitive living conditions. An American tourist on a tour of the Normandy landing beaches kept interrupting the French guide. "So this is where the Americans landed to save the French." "Right. And how many American soldiers are buried here? That's the most important number." The guide kept trying to explain the massive joint effort of the British, Canadians, and other Allied forces. The tourist just shook his head. "Yeah, but we were the ones who really did the heavy lifting. Hollywood made a lot of movies about it, so that's how I know." I was on a train from Rome to Florence, sitting across from an American student. He was looking out the window at the beautiful Tuscan countryside and said to his friend, "This looks exactly like the Olive Garden. It's cool that they modeled their restaurant so accurately. I wonder if we'll see the building from the commercials." His friend nodded in agreement, and they spent the next 10 minutes trying to spot the specific farmhouse from an American restaurant chain's advertisement. A woman came into the pharmacy where I work in Australia and asked for antibiotics. I asked if she had a prescription. She said, "No, I don't need one. I know I have a sinus infection." In America, you can just tell the pharmacist what you need and they give it to you. It's called customer service. I had to explain our laws about prescription medication. And she stormed out yelling, "This country is a nanny state. I can't even take care of my own health." My American boss was confused about our holiday policy in Spain. He couldn't believe we got 30 days of paid vacation plus public holidays. How does any work get done? He asked Umbaesa. "It's completely inefficient. In the US, you get 2 weeks if you're lucky, and you're expected not to take them all at once. This system just encourages laziness." He then tried to implement a policy where we had to earn our legally mandated vacation days through performance metrics. An American tourist at the Great Wall of China asked the guide, "So, who did the Chinese build this wall to keep out the Mexicans?" The guide was stunned into silence for a moment before trying to explain about the nomadic tribes from the north, like the Mongols. The tourist just looked confused and said, "Oh, well, a wall is a wall, I guess. Good idea." I was at a pub quiz in Ireland, and the American on my team was furious about the sports round. These questions are ridiculous. Who the hell are Man United? What's a try in rugby? Why aren't there any questions about the World Series or the Super Bowl? Those are actual world championships. This is completely biased against Americans. He couldn't comprehend that the national sports of the country we were in would be the focus of the questions. A man in my hostel in Peru was complaining that he couldn't find any real food. He said, "I've been eating quinoa and potatoes and all this weird stuff for a week. Where can I get a proper cheeseburger and some fries? Or a slice of pizza?" It's like they don't have normal food in this entire country. I'm so hungry for something that doesn't taste foreign. An American family was visiting the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam. As they walked through the cramped secret annex, I overheard the father say to his kids, "See? This is why you need a Second Amendment. If the Franks had owned a few AR-15s, they could have defended themselves from the Nazis." He said it with the absolute conviction of someone offering a profound historical insight, completely missing every single point about the systematic state-sponsored persecution that made their hiding necessary in the first place. My university in England had a student from Florida who was perpetually cold. One day in mid-October, when the temperature was about 12 kilometers 154 ton, she came to class wearing a full-on Arctic Parker gloves and a wool hat. She complained to this professor that the university was failing in its duty of care by not heating the lecture hall to a medically safe temperature. She claimed anything below 70 degrees or shine was a health hazard and threatened to write to the American embassy about the substandard living conditions for exchange students. An American software engineer was temporarily assigned to our office in Finland. He was shocked by the work-life balance. He saw people leaving at 4 p.m. and asked, "Is it a holiday? Why is everyone leaving so early?" We explained that's just a normal work day. He was genuinely disturbed. "But when do you get your work done in Silicon Valley? We work 12-hour days. That's how you innovate. This seems so lazy. No wonder you guys haven't produced the next Google." He saw our efficiency as a moral failing. I was on a train in India when it made an unscheduled stop in a rural area. An American in my car got very agitated and started pacing the aisle. He went up to the conductor and said, "You need to tell the driver to get moving. I have a schedule to keep. In America, the customer is always right, and as a customer, I demand that this train start moving immediately." The conductor just stared at him, pointed out the window at a herd of cows on the track, and walked away. A tourist at the British Museum in London was looking at the Elgin marbles, the sculptures from the Parthenon in Athens. He read the plaque about the controversy surrounding their acquisition and said to his wife, "I don't see what the big deal is. It's finders keepers. Right, Greece lost them. Britain found them. That's the rule. It's like when we bought Alaska from the Russians. It's just good business." And he viewed a complex issue of cultural heritage as a simple property transaction. My Canadian friend was talking to an American about Thanksgiving. The American asked, "So, what are you guys thankful for being so close to America?" My friend tried to explain the history of Canadian Thanksgiving, which is different and even predates the American holiday. The American just looked confused, but the whole story is about the Pilgrims and the Indians. You guys weren't there. It feels like you're just copying our holiday because you want to be like us. An American tourist in a quiet Japanese Zen garden was talking loudly on his phone, describing the garden to someone back home. "Yeah, it's nice, but it's a little boring. It's just a bunch of rocks and sand. There are no flowers or fountains or anything. It's like they ran out of budget halfway through. I could design a much better garden than this. I'd put in a waterfall and maybe a hot dog stand." A monk who was raking the sand nearby just closed his eyes and took a very, very deep breath. I was working in a pub in Guay Island. An American tourist ordered a Guinness. And when I served it, he said, "Can you put some ice in this? It's a bit warm." The entire pub, which was full of locals, went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. I politely explained that Guinness is served at cellar temperature, not chilled like a lager. He replied, "Well, in America we like our beer cold. The customer is always right." I think he was genuinely lucky to leave the pub uninjured that day. An American exchange student in my history class in Germany was shocked to learn about the sheer number of political parties in the German government. "This is so confusing," she said. "Why are there so many? You should just have two parties, a Republican one and a Democrat one. It makes everything so much simpler. You just pick a side. This system with coalitions and all these little parties is just a mess. It's no way to run a country." I was on a flight from Sydney to Los Angeles. An American woman sitting next to me was looking out the window as we flew over the vast, empty Australian outback. She turned to me and asked with genuine curiosity, "Why didn't they build more cities out there? It's just a huge waste of space. In America, BCL, we would have put a few Walmarts and some suburbs there by now. It's like nobody here has any ambition to develop the land." A tourist in Iceland was trying to pay for a souvenir with a personal check from a small credit union in Ohio. The cashier, a young Icelandic woman, had never seen a personal check before and had no way to process it. The tourist became indignant. "This is legal American tender. My money is good everywhere. Are you refusing my money? This is an outrage. I'm going to report you to the American Embassy for this anti-American discrimination."